Hi, I'm Miss, and I'm here with my lovely co-host Ryan, and you're listening to Season 4 of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast, the podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40K, and I am the noob, trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. So let's just get right into it, Ryan. You take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel. If
Oh
only,
god,
right?
I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need it for this word.
See, I like that you've learned to dread this like you did with the quotes.
Yes, exactly. For the people who doesn't know the gist of this, or well, the gimmick we have for this particular season, like we're still in the beginning of the season. I can say this.
Yeah.
Is Ryan's gonna mention a word that correlates to something later on in the episode, but I don't know what is coming for first off, and I probably most definitely doesn't know what the word means, but I'm gonna have a guess to see if I can bullshit my way out of or well actually just come up with a different type of explanation to what the word is. So Ryan,
Yeah.
what is the word? Give it to me.
So, right. I actually changed this, interestingly. When I started doing notes, the word that immediately came to mind was cacophony. Right? That was
Okay.
gonna be your word. And then it occurred to me that I think I actually have told you about that too much.
Yeah.
Right? You with me so far? So I was like, I should probably go for something a bit more out there, you know? So actually I decided that today I wanted you to tell me what
Hmm.
Cantacle City is.
The Cantacle City.
Yes.
Bro, Warhammer is so freaking big. The thing is, I have heard this before,
You have.
but I
But
am blank.
do you remember
Oh,
when you heard it?
see, no, that's the thing. Do I? I don't know.
You heard it in season 1, around episode 11, I think, which was the Black Legion. But
Oh.
when we looked at it there, we didn't look at it in the way we're going to this time. We looked at it from the Black Legion's point of view, which is interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But can you mention it again? What is it?
What do you want from? What do you want?
Just the word. I gotta bullshit my way.
Cantacle
I
City.
gotta. The Cantacle City.
Yes.
It's a essentially it's a big refugee camp
Right.
where people I don't know who seek refuge. Oh, it's some place. Oh, I could have done some stuff with the warp.
Oh.
Hmm. Is
Oh.
it as I don't know if I'm onto the thing because I'm trying to bullshit my way out of it. Maybe hit the sweet spot, like a hidden thing in the warp that only a certain group can find. Seek refuge.
Mm, no, but I get what you're driving at. You're thinking down the lines of like the Dark Eldar City, right?
Yes.
Like the
Yes.
Drukhari city in the Webway. Yeah. I
Yeah.
get where you're going with it. That is not the correct path
Well.
to follow, I guess.
Well. I think we
Think
both saw that
more.
coming.
Yeah, you know what, right? Remember in the Imperial Fist episode we mentioned the Iron Cage.
Yes.
Yeah, think more down that line.
Right, can you just give us an answer? Otherwise, people are gonna they're gonna be sitting here for a long time.
Okay, okay.
It's fine.
I'll put
Oh,
you out
well,
your
it's
misery. We'll
no,
move
you don't
on.
tell me. It's coming later on in the episode. It's coming
Yes,
later
it
on
will
in the
be talked about
episode.
later on. Would you like to
Yeah.
do
So
Cacophony instead? You could have a better chance
no,
for
no,
that.
it's fine. It's fine. But it will come later on, guys, in the episode. So don't go
It will.
anywhere. We gotta get the retention up, right?
That's it. So today
YouTube
yeah, algorithm. Woo.
algorithms. Let's go. I
Today we are going to be talking about the Emperor's Children, Fulgrim's Fun
okay.
Boys. Alright,
Okay.
so I've mentioned this in the past, but there's typically like only a couple of main characters or like features of the Legion or whatever that we have to discuss to be able to like move forward into the modern day without you being totally lost, right? So,
Yeah.
like with 1,000 Suns, it was Ahriman was the most important part because he's the most prevalent part in the modern day. But also, you do kind of need to know about the rubric, stuff like that. So the Chaos Legions typically follow that kind of path where there's like a couple of main characters that you really need to know about, and then like some info about the Legion in particular, about how they
Mm-hmm.
work nowadays, right? So in this case, there are a couple of characters that we need to go over. So today's episode is primarily going to focus around these two characters, which are the Legion's head apothecary, Fabius Bile, who we have mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a picture of him somewhere. This dude. Uh,
Ah,
yeah. And we're also going to be looking at the 13th Company captain, Lucius.
look at him.
Yes.
Look at him.
He's a very handsome man. A lot less handsome after Gavial Loken got done with him, but you know, that's a discussion point for later.
Great.
Yeah. So it's these, the boys in purple and gold, the only legion allowed to wear the Emperor's symbol on their armor. These are the guys we're going to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we all know, led by Fulgrim, the handsomest man in the galaxy at this point.
Eh,
I don't know if I can call a demon handsome, but he might still be handsome. I don't know. So by the time we get to the end of the heresy, the Legion is left in a pretty odd state, right? They've got some weird assets, right? Because you know how you could sum up most of the legions by like the number of troops and like the specialized equipment and like what they're good at and stuff like that. With these guys, by the end of the heresy, they had a Primarch with 4 arms and no legs. They had an entire legion obsessed with sensation and excess and debauchery. They had a lieutenant commander apothecary who has the goal of saving all of humanity and denies that gods exist, even though his Primarch is half snake. It's not exactly like you can look at these guys and go, I can kind of see how you ended up where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's no surprise that everything about this legion is kind of a shit show nowadays. Like, I'll tell you what, great storylines, right? Fabius is one of my favorite characters in the modern like novels and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's all just total anarchy. there is no reasoning behind it. It's just anarchy, carnage, top to bottom, fire and explosions, and that's it.
Just as we like it.
Exactly. These guys, I feel like, sum up 40K pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah.
Everyone thinks they're the hero that's going to save the galaxy, and in the end, most of what they do is just set it on fire more.
Yes.
40K, woo!
Really. It really is.
Yeah. So
Tales of Survival, Ryan. Tales of Survival.
You're not
really
wrong.
Is.
Yeah. So, as you can imagine, total shambles after the heresy. So,
yeah.
As we mentioned in the past, after the heresy, all of the traitor legions were like pushed back gradually into the Eye of Terror, right? This rapidly led to this legion, kind of led to all of them doing this, but this one in particular, because what we're talking about today, split up into like a huge number of like scattered war bands. So like little tiny armies rather than one big cohesive group, right?
Mm-hmm.
With basically every one of them had their own individual leadership, and it just became all out carnage. And it was caused primarily because, well, one, their leader has become half snake, so that was an issue. Kind of throws a wrench in the works. But then you've also got, with being in the Eye of Terror, and now the Legion obviously worships Slaanesh, everyone in the Legion is falling more and more into their like desires, right? Into excess, as is Slaanesh's whole thing. So that leads to causing like splits in the Legion between the groups that want to pursue certain types of excess, or groups that have decided one particular way of doing that is wrong and will exile anyone that wants to do it that way, and things like that. So you end up with this massive legion of incredible space marines splitting up and all gathering into little tiny groups to fight amongst themselves. Just total carnage, basically. These guys were like a serious issue within the Eye of Terror, right? Among all the Chaos Legions, these guys might have done the most harm to Chaos Legions. Like, they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Fulgrim at this point, like, once this all starts happening, just leaves. He just goes into the warp and starts partying in Slanesh's little pocket realm of the warp forever. Like, so Fulgrim is just gone, right? He's like, I'll be back in like half an hour. I'm gonna go get some milk, and just never came
Yeah,
back.
I was about to say, like, he did the dead trick, you know. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go out for some milk.
Just
Gone.
beast out.
Did a
Might see me,
Houdini, right?
Might see me in like 8,000 years. Right? He was out. Right? Then you've got Chief Apothecary Fabius Bile, who just keeps doing his experiments and everything like that, which this dude obviously encouraged to begin with, and has led him down the line of like gene manipulation and cloning to try and develop like new soldiers and stuff, because he wants to save the galaxy. And that is kind of the given state of the Emperor's Children for a huge amount of time, right? Is that it's just scattered warbands of carnage, Fulgrim's gone, and Fabius is rocking around trying to, like, invent new humans to just take over because we suck. He basically decides that rather than trying to kill all the bad things in the galaxy, we need to make humanity stronger to survive them in the first place. So he just starts working on that.
Yeah, Darwin's theory, you know?
Aye,
kind of
he's
vibes.
just like giving it a helping hand.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest, bitch. So yeah, that's the general state of them for like the majority of the time between like 30,000 and 40,000, right?
Yeah.
There are major events that go on that they like poke their heads out and do some stuff, but if someone's like, what are the Emperor's Children doing in the year 35,000? You could probably hazard a guess. Fulgrim's partying in Slanesh's realm, the rest of them are all fighting amongst themselves, and Fabius is experimenting on things. That's the gist, right?
At least they keep themselves busy, Ryan.
You know what? You're not wrong, right? These guys cannot sit still for 5 minutes. They are active. They
like
are
a bunch of
people.
ADHD kids just running around. You know, at least they're entertaining themselves.
That's
it's
it.
fine.
Just causing problems for everyone else in the interim.
It's fine.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, there are a few kind of major events worth discussing, right? One of them comes quite early on, and this is the Battle for Harmony, right? Or Cantacle City. Here we go. Right?
Okay, now it gets, retention algorithm. Let's go.
Yes, here we go. Right, we're getting into it. So, this is one whole weird event, but we have mentioned it back in Season 1 with the Black Legion, right? But we're going to kind of go at it from a slightly different point of view this time. Because then we were kind of just going over it to explain what the Black Legion were and stuff like that. This is more of a Emperor's Children side of the story.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Harmony was a world within the Eye of Terror, right? And it kind of became like a safe haven for the Emperor's Children. So, there was a huge bulk of Emperor's Children there. There was also a lot of, like, the Mechanicus that had turned evil were also living there, weirdly. But this whole world became like a safe haven for this Legion and some of their allies within the Eye of Terror. So those that weren't in the scattered warbands basically just lived here. And this included a lot of like the higher ups of the Legion, like Eidolon, I believe Eidolon, Fabius, and there's a few other, I think Sirius was there as well. Either way, there's a bunch of like the actual high ranking members of the Legion back in the day are using this place as like their base, right?
Yeah.
And this is where we come to Cantacle City, which at the time was this massive fortress, right? It was a fortress city basically, purely for the Emperor's Children, and they were trying to like use it as a way to rebuild, I guess, or to maintain some form of cohesion as a legion. So that's why the kind of the high-ranking members had stayed there because they were still pretending they were in charge of something. So you had guys like Fabius Bile. Obviously, he was the chief apothecary and stuff like that, who lived there basically. And right, it's important for me to mention this, right? At this point in time, because it changes a lot. At this point in time, Fabius believes that he should fix everything, right? He needs to fix the galaxy back to the way it was, right? Because he believes that they fucked up, right? That
Yeah.
like the traitors were the problem, but not because they were traitors. He believes that they were the problem because they lost the fight,
All right.
right? So he
Yeah.
is convinced that Horus's failure was the issue. If Horus had just been more of a man, it would have been fine. That
Well.
is the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So this is the state of like what's going on Harmony, right? Fortress world,
Mhm.
a lot of Emperor's children. Fabius is there, and currently thinks Horus is the problem, even though Horus is very dead.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, the remains of the sons of Horus, Horus's legion, were scattered and leaderless, right? They were also
Mhm.
just in these random war bands, right? Just trying to
Yeah.
live, basically, with no one in charge at all.
Mhm.
And the Emperor's children decided that they would use this to their advantage, and they attacked the
Yeah.
Sons of Horus base on a planet called Malium, right? So Sons of
Mhm.
Horus had a little shrine world fortress thing going on, right? And the whole reason they had it was because they still had the body of Horus, because they didn't like the Emperor never destroyed his body. He just
I know. Yeah.
destroyed his soul.
Yeah.
So they still had his body. So they went to Malium and built this little like fortress shrine, and then put Horus's body in it with his mace, a World Breaker, World Shatterer, whatever. So the Emperor's children take the advantage and ransack this place and steal Horus's body.
It's really disgusting when you think about it.
Yeah,
It's like
moldering corpse in armor.
It's like, I know you want to get a clone at some point, like he gets cloned and stuff, but really, Horus has seen some shit through his time, man. Even in death, like it's actually crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, that's a solid point. Like, if you want to think about which Primarch has been through the worst, right? Most people would immediately think of like their childhood and start comparing like Mortarion growing up in like the Poison Planet, or like Russ run around with wolves and stuff like that. But you're like, hold on, what about after they died? Because this guy's been through the worst.
Like, you
This
really,
guy
when you
never
think
got a
about
minute.
it, bro, just disgracing his body by like, nah, yeah.
This guy got kidnapped after he died. What kind of insult is that?
They peed on him. Allegedly.
Probably.
Allegedly.
Look, I would say that's excessive, and that sounds like it's right up their alley.
Probably.
This is why you don't let John be on guard. He does things like that.
Not John again, right? He was here last time as well.
He was. John has decided to go with excessively stupid rather than anything else.
Yeah.
Much to everyone else's dismay. Anyway, moving. So they ransack the place and steal Horus's body, right?
As you do, yeah.
Yes. And then you get these rumors floating around that Fabius is going to use it to make a clone of Horus.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
We've all heard this story before, right?
Yes.
We're flogging a dead horse at this point. We've told this story before.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have like the kind of initials, right. This rumor is what causes the Battle of Harmony, right?
Okay.
This rumor is what starts off. So at this point, the Abaddon decides he's going to take charge, right? He will not let this insult stand of stealing Horus's body. So this is when he forms the Black Legion and decides we're going to go kick some ass at Cantacle City and get our dad's body back, right? So he actually doesn't round up very many people to begin with, but one of the main people he like rounds up to join him is 1,000-son Psyker, right? And the reason this guy's important is because he has his own massive warship, right? Which doesn't have a crew. It is controlled by like a series of brains in jars that has like this weird name. But basically, all of these like minds work together to control the ship's systems on like an automated loop kind of thing. So he can give it commands using his psychic powers as like telepathy, and then it will carry it out rather than needing an actual full crew to run the ship.
Have we not talked about this? Or have we not talked about this before?
I think we've mentioned it probably back when we discussed this in season 1. because we discussed it from the from the Black Legion side, so we would have focused on these details quite heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've made like an AI joke back in the day with this,
Probably.
you know.
Yeah. Well, this
That's
is
right up my
magical
alley.
AI. This is magical, terrible quality AI.
This is not ChatGPT 3, it's ChatGPT 4.
Yes.
Plus.
Yes. It can control spaceships at that point. That's what the plus does.
Yes.
Yes. Still can't write anything convincingly, though. Anyway, moving on. So, the main players on the Black Legion side that you need to know about are Abaddon, obviously, Kyle himself, and this random Thousand Sun Psyker, who has his own warship. At this point, Abaddon still has Horus's warship, like his Legion flagship, which is gigantic. So when the battle kicks off over Harmony, it's these two ships along with a bunch of other rabble coming into orbit over the planet and then getting into like a space battle with the Emperor's children ships. And because the Vengeful Spirit, Horus's flagship, is on the Black Legion side, they basically just wipe out everyone else because it's gigantic and it is Horus's goddamn flagship. It's basically just guns. It's more guns than it is ship, right? So they win that fight pretty quickly. And then to add a point of fuck you to it, he has the Psyker send like a collision course order to hit the extra warship they've got, and it just autopilots itself directly into Cantacle City from orbit and just wipes the place. It's just flaming rubble left over.
That's a bad day.
Well,
people,
not if you're Abaddon. If you're Abaddon, it's probably very cool.
In the city.
Yeah,
yes.
fuck it. They're Emperor's children, who cares? They probably loved it.
Fireworks. Yeah.
They're probably excessively painful. They love that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. They crashed a warship into a fortress from orbit. So, obviously, now you've got Cantacle City is like a pile of rubble. But the important thing here is that Abaddon was never after Cantacle City. He was after a ship in orbit called the Flesh Market, which is a disgusting name, but it was Fabius Bile's ship. And that's what he was after. He was after Fabius, but he just wanted to make a point of saying fuck you to the Emperor's children. So he crashed a ship into their fortress.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage.
For literally no reason other than because he could. Just throwing it out there.
God.
Yeah. So, as it usually goes, Emperor's children are scattered and destroyed. Then Abaddon boards the Flesh Market to hunt down Fabius and his dad's corpse. He obviously does this with the newly founded Black Legion, so he has Marines at his back. It's not just Abaddon charging through the place with Horus's claw. Although it wouldn't surprise me if he tried that. Abaddon is a total psycho.
Yeah.
He really is. He's a nutcase. Wait till we get to the modern day stuff. You're gonna see.
Alright.
Yeah. So, as he's charging through Fabius's ship, obviously, he comes upon a bunch of mutants and then these biologically enhanced warriors and stuff like that Bile's been making. And he murders his way through all of them, the usual. It's basically how every story involving Fabius and battle goes. Until he eventually gets to this, central laboratory, right? Fabius' main lab. And he finds Fabius, along with 20 cloning vats, each containing a young clone of each of the 20 Primarchs. My issue with this, right? I have a couple issues with this situation, right? Because this is canon, right? He did clone all of them, right? My issues with this are, one, what about the Alpha Legion Primarch? Because that's two guys, so which one is he cloning? Or is he biologically creating a combination of the two? Because he realistically just doesn't know that there's two of them, right?
Is it that stated anywhere?
No. Because he never really inspects them, he just finds the 20 vats. And I think he notes I think he notes a couple of them, and he notes the number purely to spike the reader's interest in the fact that he's got the missing ones that we've never heard anything about. but he never explains much more than that. So realistically, there should be 21, but it means he's either cloning Alpharius or Omegon,
Yeah.
and he
Or yeah.
doesn't know which, which is quite funny.
Frustrating.
Quite,
I would say
yes.
frustrating because
Yeah.
like you say, is it merged together or like how would it work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because the reason I think possibly a combination of the two is if he's been working with like the biological basis that they came from, you would get a
Mm-hmm.
combination of the two. Because they were never meant to be twins; they were accidentally twins. You
Yeah.
know, or you'd probably just
Oh,
end up with
so
like a brother to them essentially.
yeah.
So Abaddon, after finding these like cloning vats, proceeds to destroy them all and kill the clones within them because, fuck that. Also, primarily just to upset Fabius, because how dare you for all of this. So Fabius, being enraged by his work being destroyed, sends in his full-grown clone of Horus to go kick his son's ass. And
Yep.
remember that Abaddon has Horus's claw, right? The talon of Horus, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the body of Horus had Horus's mace with it. So Abaddon is still wielding the claw when they meet, but the clone of Horus has Horus's actual weapon, Worldbreaker, the giant mace.
Yeah.
So it's a weird situation. It's a really creepy situation to think about because the clone of Horus is like really forgetful and like it's like he's kind of like out of touch. Like he doesn't know exactly where he is or what's going on. So like his mind's not quite right, which is really weird. So he ends up in this big battle with the new Black Legion, kills a bunch of them, and eventually ends up locked weapons with Abaddon, right? So he locks like the mace with the claw, and
Yeah.
now that they're like face to face with each other so close, Horus realizes who Abaddon is, and he calls him his son. Perfectly reasonable thing to do, and Abaddon basically just denounces that he's his son and kills him, just impales him with a claw.
Bish.
He's like, it's good to see you again, son. Like, I am no son of yours. Stab. It's really
Easy.
a very touching moment until like he gets impaled. So that is actually the point where Abaddon becomes the War Master of Chaos. It's after he kills the clone of Horus that he like titles himself as the War Master, like his dad.
Yeah.
And since then, he's just been going around, regrouping Sons of Horus and building up the Black Legion before kicking off the Black Crusades.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking here. We're talking about your boy Fabius here. So
Fabius Bile. Yep.
yeah. So since that point, he has basically just continued going around the Eye of Terror, offering his like cloning and gene manipulation and mutation services, and apothecary services. He will actually just like patch up a wound if you want. He is like the best apothecary in the galaxy. So if you like some of your guys are injured, if you're like a minor chaos warband leader and you've got like 10, I don't know, world eaters with like limbs ripped off, and he turns up at your door and he's like, I'll make you a deal. You give me some men and I'll like work for you for a while. And they're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Here's a bunch of human slaves we captured in our last raid. Here's like 3,000 of them. Can you like fix these 10 guys that are all missing a limb? And he's like, no bother. And he's going to do it. But the issue is that he then uses their 3,000 random slaves to make a bunch of disgusting mutants and shit like that. And then just like, here you go. And then just fucks off. He just needs people to work on, so he just goes around offering his services in payment for like flesh to work on, basically.
It's really disgusting.
It is, yeah. But to be fair, in the modern day, he has developed his skills so much that he is like a master craftsman. He is like the apothecary, basically. He's the guy. If you need mutants made, he is your man.
I don't doubt you.
You want to see what he looks like now?
Yes.
Fabius Bile, Clone Lord.
Bruh. I've seen a figurine of this guy.
I have one now.
I think you've shown me. Either you've shown me or I've like Googled it before.
I haven't painted mine. I think you probably Googled it one of the many times we talked about this disgusting freak.
Oh wow.
I love it, but he's wearing a man skin coat. It's very hard to defend his moral status when he's wearing a man leather coat.
Yeah. That's gonna be hard to defend.
Yeah. Actually,
yeah.
They've just released a new book about this guy. It's a book that's about him and Belisarius Cawl, the guy who made the new type of Space Marines for Gilliman. And it's the two of them meeting, and it's quite cool. But there's a point where they actually do meet and they have a conversation, and there is a point where Fabius says something slightly or kind of judgmental or whatever, and Belisarius decides to like try and take Belisarius says something, and Fabius tries to take like the moral high ground over it, claiming that like his work serves a purpose, and that like his work, as disgusting as everyone thinks it is going to save humanity. And Cawl is just like, it's really hard for like the man in the man leather coat to take the moral high ground, isn't it? And you're like, it's a solid fucking point.
Yeah.
I forget sometimes how much of a creep this dude actually is. This rotting carcass of a man walking around.
Just misunderstood, Ryan. I think we said not Fabius Bile, but Fabius Bile.
I'm sure there's a point in like there's a trilogy about this guy. I'm sure there's a point in one of the books where he says something and like his like assistant or whatever that's with him just turns to him and is like, "You truly are vile, Fabius." You're like, ha.
Just shrugs it off like, yeah, thank you.
I've been called worse. It's not even lunch.
He'll take it. He'll take it as a compliment, Ryan. Trust me.
At this point, it's probably yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our boy Fabius, and that's kind of his side of the story. Before we get on to like modern day stuff with him, right? This is where it kind of leaves off. He gets fucked over at Cantacle City. His clones get fucked over, and then he decides to just go around and work on his skills and develop his talents. Now we come to our boy Lucius. This guy. This is not a great picture. I'm going to throw it out there. But such is life.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So we're going to start off back in like the 30th millennium, like pre-heresy time for this guy, right? Because we've never actually mentioned him. So I feel like I need to give you the proper rundown on him, right?
Yeah.
He is the 13th company captain of the Emperor's Children. So he leads an actual huge section of the Legion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is the greatest swordsman in any of the legions.
Okay.
He is the greatest Space Marine swordsman in the galaxy. Right? So he's a pretty impressive dude. As you can imagine, he is the most arrogant arsehole anyone has ever met, and most people hate him because of it. But he is an incredible warrior. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. With me so far. Right?
Yes.
He has never actually lost a duel at all, until like the first or second book of the Heresy. Until that point, so whole Great Crusade time, he never once loses a one-on-one duel. That's how good this guy is. When he finally, he is a total badass. He's also a total arsehole, but he is really good at what he does. Can never take that away from him. He's just a very unpleasant human being otherwise. His personality is awful, but it's not his personality you want in a battle, so... Although he might annoy the enemy to death, to be honest with you. It's a very real risk with this guy. Actually, he is beaten in a duel in, like, the first or second book there. I believe it's the first. So, I'm going to explain this, because it's interesting, right? The first 3 books of the Horus Heresy are told from the point of view of a man named Gaviel Loken, right? He's one of Horus's captains. And so it's like... the
name does ring a bell.
Yeah, it's like him watching Horus turn to a traitor, which is quite a dramatic way to do it. I like it, it's good. And early on, they end up working side by side, the sons of, or the Luna Wolves at the time, and the Emperor's children. So, this guy ends up in one of like the training cages on the same ship that Gavio Loken happens to be on. And they end
Mm-hmm.
up in the kind of the training area together as this guy's doing like practice duels. Eventually, he harasses Loken into going into like a duel with him because he basically is just like goading him on until he agrees to fight him so that he can prove he's better than him, which is just
Yep.
him being an arrogant arsehole, as we all know. And Loken
Pretty
basically wants
much.
nothing to do with it because he doesn't care. And then eventually he's like, you know what, fuck it, fine, fine, whatever will shut you up, fine, I'll fight you, for the love of God. So the two of them get their swords and they go into the practice cage and then like they ring the bell or whatever. Basically they start the fight. And Lucius charges at him with everything he's got, and then right before they like make contact, Loken just sidesteps and just punches him square in the face. And that is the first time Lucius ever lost a duel. And he's like, "Oh, you cheated! That's not. It was a sword fight." And Loken's like, "It's a fight. I won. This is your problem.
Oh,
Your issue is you thought it was a sword fight."
yeah.
It's like, you
Well,
said sword fight. I agreed to nothing. You lost. Deal with it.
well, not to defend it, but then he hasn't lost a
He hasn't
sword
lost
fight,
a sword
duel.
duel. No, he has
Yeah,
lost
like
a
a
duel.
duel. Yeah,
Like,
because I would say like that move would be a swordman's biggest shame, you know.
I don't know.
I'm
If
just
you live
saying.
afterwards,
Ah,
very
it
hard to
doesn't
be.
matter.
Very hard
Rather
to be
die
ashamed when
than
you're
go down
dead.
as a coward.
Well, that's
No,
exactly it.
it's
Yeah, it's a point of pride for Lucius, right? But
yeah,
even though Loken didn't fight it with like honor or with pride in the same sense, it still
yeah,
messed with Lucius. It still got in his head,
yeah. I
as
mean,
you would
of
imagine it
course.
would.
Yeah.
So the story for this guy really goes off the rails at the purging of the legions on Istvan 3, right? So I actually found this amazing piece of artwork for it, which is really cool. This
Mm-hmm.
is
As per
it's
usual.
the artist is someone called Lychie, or it's Lychie. I have no idea where to find them. I will look it up. I will find somewhere we can find them. So I can't specifically say it. It was Lychee on ArtStation or Reddit or I don't know. I'll look it up. It'll be in the description. I'll hunt for it. Okay.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's
Yes.
truly incredible. I just want to make it as clear as possible. This is fantastic. But anyway, moving on. So, the purging of the legions at Estefan 3 is when our boy Lucius gets interesting and less of an arsehole, I guess. So, he was one of the loyalists that survived the burning of the planet, right? Because remember, the virus bombed the planet, and some people got a warning, so they managed to survive. And you ended up with this, like, ground war between all of the traitors and, like, the 10% of their legions that was left alive that were loyalists. Just, like, dug in and fighting from foxholes, basically. He's one of them, right? And there's a
Yep.
few of them. So, like him, Gavil Loken is also one of the survivors. He ends up getting murdered by Abaddon. And his best friend, Saul Tarvitz, one of the other captains of the Emperor's Children, all are some of like the important traitor or loyalists that are fighting the traitors.
Yep.
And it's important to explain that it's not a snap change for this guy, right? He is a loyalist fighting side by side with other loyalists. But gradually, as it seems to become more visible and more obvious that Saul Tarvitz, his best friend, is the one that is in charge. He's the one everyone's praising for leadership. Everyone's looking to for leadership in this battle and everything like that. It starts to like it starts to taint Lucius. He starts to like to I guess to grudge him, like to grudge his success, and he starts to like turn on the loyalists, but on like a personal level. It's not like, oh, I suddenly hate the Emperor. It's I suddenly fucking hate you guys. Like I'm better at this than all of you. Why are you important? You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. He just gradually like turns bitter to it, and eventually decides to throw in his lot with the traitors. And when they find out he's like slaughtering a bunch of his own men, like he's slaughtering a bunch of like other Emperor's children Marines, and there's another loyalist, I believe it's Demeter, sees this and like runs over and helps him because he thinks he's fighting traitor marines that have gotten into their base, and it's only after he's killed them all he's like, wait a minute, these are all loyalists, and Lucius is like, you're correct, stab.
Wrong place at the wrong time.
You picked the wrong side in that fight again. Stab.
Yep.
Yep. So he then obviously just joins the traitors and fucks over all his best friends and all the good guys, as is usually the way with traitor marines.
I mean, his name, Lucius. I'm just saying.
It does sound
It's
like a
fitting
bad
name.
guy's name.
No, but just like in. No, never mind. It doesn't matter.
I feel like I'm missing a reference here.
Yeah, don't worry. Comment section. Let him know.
I hope someone gets that because I want to understand it.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So after Lucius throws a tantrum and murders a bunch of his own guys and turns evil,
Yep.
the whole situation gradually resolves without Lucius being too important again. For the sake of his storyline, shortly after the whole Istvan 3 debacle, he is made to be Fulgrim's like leader of his bodyguard, right? So he becomes like the leader of Fulgrim's like actual personal guard because he's such a good warrior. And now is the time to recognize that, I guess? I don't know. There's weird reasoning behind it. But he also then, shortly after, becomes Lord Commander of the Legion. So he ends up running the Legion, which is quite weird. And it tends to get weirder. So remember how Fulgrim was possessed by a sword and trapped in a painting?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to forget how stupid that is.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
Yeah, so Lucius starts having all these weird dreams that convince him that Fulgrim is possessed. So, in a brilliant move, you know what he does? He rounds up a bunch of the other, like, high-ranking members of the Legion, like Fabius and Eidolon and whoever else, and they kidnap Fulgrim.
Let's go.
Because he's convinced that he's possessed. So, after, like, many attempts at torture, which all failed, and many failed exorcisms, Lucius decides that, actually, Fulgrim was possessed, but Fulgrim's so great that he unpossessed himself. So everything's fine. We just kidnapped and tortured and exorcised our Primarch for no reason.
Great.
And everyone just moves on from that. It's fine. That has no lasting effect on anything.
Nope.
Weird situation, though. This guy's storyline is all over the place, man.
I can hear that, yeah.
Yeah. So, we go, a bit further on, and do you remember from the Fulgrim episode in the last season that Fulgrim lied about having, like, heard rumors of some ridiculously powerful weapon that would turn the tide and, like, the traitors would instantly win? It was named the Angel Exterminatus.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, Lucius is one of Fulgrim's dudes that goes with him on this little, like, mission. And in the course of events, Lucius ends up locked in battle with one of the Raven Guard called Nikona Sharokin, right? He ends up locked in battle with him a couple of times. The first time, Lucius leaves with a scar. The second time, Lucius leaves with a scar, or with a matching scar, and 2 swords to the heart.
Damn.
Yeah, so Lucius just ends up getting impaled by this Raven Guard dude. He's just like, fuck you, best swordsman in the galaxy, my ass. Just impales the fucker. That's what you get. Take that, you traitorous bastard. And then Lucius wakes up on Fabius's operating table, just amazed that he's alive. For the record, he was dead. Fabius brought him back from the dead. He does it a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a trick of Fabius's to literally bring people back from the dead. He just somehow manages it once in a while. You're not the greatest apothecary in the galaxy until you can literally laugh at death. Just saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
I agree.
Fabius has died more times than he could count. But that's a discussion for another day. So, he wakes up amazed that he's alive and decides that the only proper way to, use his newfound life, like this miracle that's occurred, the only proper way to use it is to abandon everyone and everything you know and go hunting through the galaxy for rivals to fight.
Yeah.
So that's what he does. And he basically just ends up murdering a bunch of really good swordsmen and stuff like that, killing a bunch of like normal or just random space marines because they were apparently pretty good at what they did, and he was like, I'll check that. So he just goes around murdering people for a while. He basically just becomes a serial killer for like a couple of months. This like spree of random murders for no reason is only halted when he tries to murder one of the Thousand Sons, and at the end of the battle his like blade stops just short of killing the guy, and he's like, what the fuck's going on? It turns out Ahriman's just turned up and like stopped his sword with his powers, and is like, you can't kill him, I need him. It's like, I'm gonna need him soon, so you can't kill this guy yet. So then, as you might expect, Lucius just follows Ahriman around until he doesn't need him anymore so he can kill the guy.
Oh my god, that's menacing as well. Oh, damn.
Just follows him around like a duckling till he can murder him. I like to think it was like a kid, like that thing of like parents driving their children somewhere and the kids are in the back going, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" I like to think of it as like,
can I go?
Yeah, exactly. You get it. Armin's like trying to formulate some crazy mystical plan, and Lucy's like, "Can I kill him yet? Can I kill him yet?" No, for the last time, sit down. I'll tell you when you can kill him. This whole Lucius storyline eventually culminates with Fulgrim being, forcibly dragged to Terra for the siege, and then putting out a call to all the Emperor's children to come to Terra to, kick some loyalist ass. And then Lucius rejoins and, so on from there.
Yeah.
That is the main part of Lucius's storyline for the sake of what we wouldn't be covering going forward. Do you want to see what he looks like nowadays?
Yeah, go on.
I showed you him in the Halloween episode thing because he's the most disgusting guy ever, and he looks like Nemesis from Resident Evil.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's some guy.
Yeah.
He's quite cool though. Yeah. So that is kind of what you need to know about the Emperor's Children moving forward. Fabius is going around experimenting on stuff. Lucius is absolutely hell-bent on becoming the greatest swordsman in the galaxy, and has or will murder anyone who claims otherwise, and is very, very blessed by Slaanesh at this point. But we'll get into the story of how that, takes form when we're looking at this character individually and his whole, nonsense storyline. And Emperor's Children otherwise, up until modern day, are kind of scattered nonsense. We'll expound on that when we get to incidents that require it. And Fulgrim, for all intents and purposes, is in Slaanesh's realm partying. Also, because I've covered every other character so far, pre and post heresy, do you want to see a picture of Fulgrim now?
Go on.
Look at this sexy bastard.
Oh, God.
Him staring down Gilliman.
Yeah. Strutting around.
Yeah.
Like he owns the place.
This is actually by an artist called Mothman Draws. Just so you know.
I like the name.
I love the idea of Mothman, like, trying to figure out how to, work a pen properly as well. Or, like, well, in this case, I assume this is purely digital art, so it'd probably be, like, a drawing tablet. I just love the idea of, like, Mothman's always, like, horror stories. You know what Mothman is?
I'm not too sure. I thought that was just, like, a moth.
No, you know how, like, we have, like, Bigfoot and then, like, the Loch Ness Monster and all these things? All these, like, folk tales about mythical monster creatures. Yeah, there's one, I think it's in, like, the south of America. I don't know where, not South America, but the south of North America, I believe. I think it's like one state in particular that has like Mothman as their one, and he's just this monstrous half moth, half man creature that goes around
Bruh.
doing monster stuff like it. I don't know. I don't know what it does. I've just heard about it a lot. It was in Fallout 76 as well, I think. I think that
I mean, I like that kind of stuff, like Mujina and Loch Ness, and like you say, Bigfoot. But I've never heard about Mothman.
Oh yeah. You know what? We'll do like an extra episode at some point where we just look at Mothman.
If he
Iterators
responds
of
to this
everything.
video, if he responds to this video, by the way,
If Mothman draws comments on this video for no apparent reason, we will do an episode covering the Mothman, as in the
Ryan,
folktale.
you got to put out a TikTok of that or shorts, so just for the reach, you know.
Oh yeah, I'll just reach out to Mothman draws. I'll see if they want to do it.
Yeah, all right.
See if they care. They probably don't.
No.
I don't know how I do an episode of this about the Mothman. If I do that, I feel like we're rapidly going to go down a hill, which is going to end up with us doing true crime.
Right. No, it's gonna be my responsibility if we get that far. Right. You don't think about this.
Hell yeah, I went on that. You know what? You know what we should do, right? We should start doing like stylized seasons. So like we should do one season at some point, like season 7 or 8 or something. That we do the whole thing as if it's like a Criminal Minds type thing, as if it's like a true crime podcast.
And then they arrived at the scene. Blood was everywhere because it's still 40K. Of course, blood is everywhere.
Yeah,
but gory.
Like the first thing you say. Okay, moving forward, this is going to be a long story with many locations and many characters. Assume blood is everywhere in every situation, unless we state otherwise. That is the standard.
And we don't state otherwise. Yeah, we don't state
we never actually state otherwise.
Ever.
We do sometimes state that there are things in the blood. But, you know, we said there's blood everywhere? Yeah, there's blood everywhere, but this time there's bits of pancreas in there as well.
Oh,
really important.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Emperor's Children.
All right. Well, do you want me to round this up before we go on another tangent of like... You know what? I'll just take it here. Thank you guys for listening to this. I don't know what this outro has been, but thank you guys for listening to this episode of Iterators of the Imperium podcast. It's been me, Mess, and Ryan, and we will see you at the next one. Take care and peace.
Bye.